Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com.
It is Tuesday, March 12th, which means that yesterday was Monday, March 11th, I think, if my math is right, which means it was not supposed to be the start of NFL free agency. That wasn't starting on March 11th, but it kind of started on March 11th. Ray, I don't get it. I don't know. I'll never get it, but we had like 400 NFL free agent signings yesterday.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I read legal tampering. Okay, let's be very clear about that. That's like a full stop. You either stop or you don't. You tamper or you don't. There's no such thing, but that's what it's called. I don't get it.
Oh, man, it was wild and wacky. And NFL free agency is something to behold. And we will recap all of it on this edition of Fantasy Sports Daily. Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers with you. We, of course, are powered by fantasyguru.com, wherever you are joining us, however you are joining us. Good to have you on board for this Tuesday, a day that is chock full of all sorts of things, not only the football, but, of course, baseball. As spring training continues, getting closer and closer to the start of the season. Ray was a part of another draft last night. Also some mid-MA coming your way with Justin Finsterman. So that is where we stand for the day. As I noted, we got a lot to get to today. So let's kind of dive into the headlines and give you a rundown of what we got coming your way. There you see it. NFL free agency. Again, officially, I think it's tomorrow or even Thursday. It's like midnight or something. Whatever it is, it's already like half over, if not more so. We were all paying attention to the running backs, and man, oh man, Ray, running back frenzy. I hope Jeff Mans did not put out like a running back power ranking yesterday morning, our rankings for 2024, because that thing was blown to smithereens by about 4:00 yesterday afternoon.
I hate it. It's like when I put a rankings update out and then 6 minutes later, Garrett Cole gets hurt or whatever. So yeah, that. And again, this is what people talk about, and there were all the memes and the jokes yesterday. The NFL free agency is in one day was better than baseball's free agency has been the whole offseason. Like there's the Cy Young winner still doesn't have a team, and so yeah, there's football does a great job of always staying relevant, and Major League Baseball just doesn't.
Yeah, and we were anticipating the backfield because there were a lot of big names and a lot of movement expected, and we got that yesterday. And additionally, we even got more names to add to the free agent pile. So Ray and I will break it all down. Also, Kirk Cousins making the move to Atlanta. That's a biggie. The Raiders and Cousins without Minnesota Vikings. They're also making moves at QB. So again, we'll start the show by recapping all of that. Then we'll get into some baseball. I mentioned the FSGA Champions League draft last night. Ray Flowers was not only a part of that draft, but also broadcasting the draft over on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, which he will tell you that is why he has Jorge Soler on his team.
And
one bad pick out of 29, Ray, is not too awful.
And kind of Cody Bellinger, because I went on the air and I said, I'm going to do this differently. I'm not going to build up the middle like I've been doing. And it came to my pick, and it's like, crap, I got to take a middle infielder here. But I just said it, so no, I'll go Cody Bellinger. So 2 of the 29 picks. I'll have a full write-up later today at fantasyguru.com. It'll be free, and I guess we'll talk about it here on the show a little bit.
Yeah, we'll give you a sneak peek on that front. Relievers will continue to be the topic of the week. Yesterday, we started with some of the top names and top performers. Talked about how to build the bullpen. Again, if you want to hunt that down, you can go to our YouTube channel. You can also download the podcast. It's always available. Today, we'll talk about surprises of a year ago and what the outlook is for 2024. Our team preview. Yesterday, we were in Pennsylvania. Today, we will stay in Pennsylvania. We'll take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ray will get to his biggest questions of the year answered article. We'll preview that from the Fantasy Guru Baseball Draft Guide. And as noted, a little NBA talk on a Tuesday with the one and only Justin Finsterman. I mentioned that draft guide, Ray, still available. It's always going to be available. That's one thing about putting these things on the net. They never sell out. You can always keep shoving them out the door. We want to get close to a sellout, which I think would be in the billions. Maybe if we can sell that many. So Ray, tell the people how they can take advantage of a great deal to get that draft guide as we head into the deep part of the draft season.
Yeah, go to fantasyguru.com, click on the Join Now tab at the top right. You can also see the link there. If you're watching on YouTube, the link will be listed below. Just click on it. We've got the baseball product out. It's now through the regular season. So you can go back and read the hundreds of articles. I don't know the 100 articles that are up. I think it's more than that. player profile series going bananas now. We're writing those, 1,400 word articles on players, breaking them down. That's kind of where we're at after all the overall analysis that we did. You get access to Discord with that 24 hours a day to ask your questions. Use the promo code FSD20, FSD20 to sign up there to get a 20% discount on the baseball product. You can also go to the website and click on that Join Now tab in the top right for access to our March Madness catalog, access to our all-in package, which includes NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, racing, and soccer, all those in one package, and that's all the DFS and betting for those sports. And then we've also got the franchise mode for football, which includes, as we're seeing right now, our analysis of free agency, as well as our run-up to the draft. Tyler Beaker started his player profile series analyzing the college kids today. So that's also available. Use that promo code FSD20.
And we will not get to every single move yesterday. We'll get to the biggies. But if you're looking to find out what in the world's going on, what did Ray and Kyle talk about in NFL free agency, we got a free agent tracker over at fantasyguru.com. So that's kind of a quick snapshot to kind of see who's also still available. If you are a fan of a team, maybe looking for a wide receiver or quarterback, running back, whatever it may be, check out that free agent tracker. And then as we go through the remainder of the month, once things kind of settle just a bit, there's going to be a lot of write-ups and breakdowns of where everybody landed and kind of what it means for their fantasy outlook. Ray, let's begin with the NFL because it was the topic of the day. I mean, it was wild and crazy and got going around, 11 o'clock yesterday, at least 11 o'clock my time, with all sorts of news coming out. And running backs, again, were the big ones. And just to give everybody a quick rundown, Saquon Barkley, sounds like he's off to Philadelphia. DeAndre Swift, formerly of Philadelphia, going to Chicago. Josh Jacobs, going to Green Bay. Austin Ekeler to Washington. Tony Pollard to Tennessee. Gus Edwards to the Chargers. Antonio Gibson to the Patriots. Zach Moss to Cincinnati, which means Joe Mixon. See ya. Yeah, really, folks. Zach Moss and Joe Mixon out. And Ray, also Aaron Jones, after that Josh Jacobs signing, he is released. So now we've added two more relatively impressive names of running backs that are available: Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, also still available. So Ray, even with all this movement, we got some big names, but probably the biggest here is Saquon Barkley. And man, you talk about star power. Eagles got it now. You got Hurts, you got Goddard, you got the two receivers, and now you add Saquon Barkley. It's a pretty impressive contingent of talented position players on the offensive side.
Yeah, and this is also why I've gotten a lot of questions, as we all have at fantasyguru.com, people asking in Discord, Dynasty League, Keeper League questions. This is why all those trades everyone wanted to do last month, good luck. You have to wait for these things to play out. I know everyone feels like if they're not doing something in their Keeper Dynasty League, they're falling behind. Did you make a bad trade because of the way, again, we always try to caution people with that. I will say late that Aaron Jones did say F you to the Packers. He signed with the Vikings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he 1 year, $7 million. So he told the Packers to stick it up their rear end and went to the Vikings.
1 year, $7 million. Right?
Yeah.
And like Barkley got 3 and in the 30s, mid 30s is what, and a lot of guaranteed money. I get it, but it's kind of crazy, Ray. Aaron Jones is still pretty productive. 1 year,
still very good. He dealt with injuries last year and all that. So that's why he was, I'm sure, a 1 year deal. He's 30 years old, but he was still very effective. But yeah, the Barkley signing, I mean, it's interesting because we can sit here and debate the validity of the move in the sense that you already had DeAndre Swift. Like, how much better is your team with Barkley? The star power piece is huge. They made it a significant financial investment, to your point. Most teams don't do that anymore. Again, is he 3 times the player that DeAndre Swift is? No. But the Eagles said, we're going for it. And, the offensive line is not the same. Kelsey's now gone. And I think that they didn't grade out as well as they have in the past last year. There's obviously the presence of Jalen Hurts, and how is that going to impact Barkley's usage at the goal line, as we have seen previously. The hope is that, Gainwell and Scott now really recede into that support role, because we know the Eagles for years have kind of used 3 guys. So let's hope that, Barkley doesn't show up and get 14 touches a week. But it was a significant move for the Eagles.
Swift to Chicago is kind of wild too.
Yeah. Why? Like you don't even know who your quarterback is going to be. Let's sign another running back.
Yeah, we've got 3 starting running backs, I guess, in
Yeah.
the backfield. The Bears have kind of been that way, and maybe they think Swift is the guy. But Ray, I'll just tell you now, knowing the Bears' history, he's going to get hurt. I mean, DeAndre Swift if they try to use him a lot, even Philadelphia, remember early in the year, they were trying to use him a lot. They scaled back a lot then too and pulled back from game to game. So I guess the Bears are just going to roll with all sorts of different looks in the backfield, which is tough to defend, but it's also tough to predict for us, the fantasy player.
Yeah. And I mean, look, not that you're going to get a star wide receiver for $24 million, but DJ Moore. And then what? The receiving core is crap. So let's go out and give $24 million to another running back we don't need. Sorry, Jeff Mans. I don't know what your team's doing. I'm sure he feels the same way. Like, what do you do? He said it the other day on the show on Sirius XM. But yeah, I mean, again, here's all the people in Dynasty Keeper Leagues. You thought Herbert and Johnson were a thing. They're no longer a thing. They're now just holds in those setups. And it's weird because the receiving core could certainly use a boost. And, there's still all that uncertainty about the quarterback position, which is obviously leading the offseason discussion. But they seem to have signed a player that they didn't really need, and they paid him a pretty good price.
Yeah, and so he will move to Chicago. Barkley replaces him. Devin Singletary actually ended up with the Giants on a very cheap deal, so that's kind of the replacement there. I mentioned the Zach Moss thing, Ray, and I think the Moss news came first, and then the Mixon news came out. Not that one was decided before the other. You mentioned Aaron Jones now going to Minnesota. That was a team that everybody expected to get one of these guys. They got Aaron Jones. So I kind of wonder, Mixon and Henry, what are we looking at? Chargers seem very logical, but they actually added Gus Edwards yesterday, which doesn't, preclude them from going out and getting one of these other guys. Right. But if you're an NFL GM, Ray, I'm looking at Mixon and Henry, and I'm going to stare down with both those guys. Like, who wants it more? Who wants to be on a better team? Who wants to just have a job?
Right.
Because to me, they both can be, relative horses. You'd sign Mixon, you'd sign Henry and say, okay, give us 275 touches. That's what we want from you guys. And maybe that's only a 1-year deal. It'll just be fascinating to see what teams kind of do. And maybe they'll put the same offer out, Ray. Here, you can have 1 year, $6 million. You can have 1 year, $7 million. You can have 1 year, $8 million. Maybe we'll give you 2 and 12. And they'll probably give the same deal to both guys and just see which one wants to snap up the contract.
Yeah, and the Ravens are the one everyone's kind of talking about now because obviously Keaton Mitchell's injured, Dobbins is injured, Edwards is gone. We just talked about that. So is that where they're both going to go? I mean, would the Texans make a move? They lost Singletary. They clearly aren't, signed. They aren't fully in the camp of Mr. Pierce. There's just not a lot of openings really right now. I mean, I guess the Cowboys, they lost Pollard, maybe there too, but that's not, the Cowboys are.
Derrick Henry fits so well with the Cowboys. It's not even funny, Ray. It's just like, that's the logic, but I don't know how much money they really have to spend on him.
So there are a few opportunities here for both these guys still to go somewhere and touch it 18 times a week. We'll see how it plays out. But like I said, and I mean, look, if you're one of these guys and DeAndre Swift gets $8 million a year for 3 years, are you going to sign for less than that? I mean, are you? Because it's like, look at my resume, bro. Like I'm, and they're going to say, yeah, we are looking at your resume, bro. And you got a lot of mileage and you're wearing down. So stare down. It's a good way to look at it, Kyle. I think you framed it properly.
Austin Ekeler, Ray, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle here. He had a bad season, so people were kind of fading him a bit. Now he goes to Washington. And again, that was just kind of a mention amongst the craziness of yesterday. It's not the most exciting thing to me for Austin Ekeler. I think we'll just kind of fade off into the sunset with a guy who for 3 or 4 years was great. And now you're just kind of looking as a low end RB2. Is it that bad? Is it mid RB2? Maybe I'm discounting him too much.
No, it's early and we got to read between the lines and the tea leaves on this one, right? But I don't think it's really an argument at this point in time. Who's a better runner between the tackles, Brian Robinson or Austin Ekeler? Brian Robinson. Okay. So how does that look? Is Ekeler now just a third down back? Does he basically become a slightly better Antonio Gibson?
Yeah. Has he fallen that far?
Well, and I think the real question is he at this point of his career really better than Antonio Gibson? I think the Commanders have really botched Gibson. Like there's skills here and there's an ability for Gibson to, be a significant part of an offense. He never really has been. What did they pay him? $12 million, 11 and a half, something like that. Ekeler over 2 years. So they didn't pay up, but that's, $5.5, $6 million is pretty pretty expensive for a third down back if that's how they're looking at it. But, you look at the receiving core, they brought in Zach Ertz, but he doesn't have much left. They let Logan Thomas go with the Commanders. They, too, don't even really know who their quarterback's going to be, So it could still be a scenario where Austin Ekeler catches 75 passes in this offense just because, right? Mm-hmm. They've got McLaurin and Dotson and Samuel and Crowder and Pringle. Like, they've got a solid group of pass catchers, but the uncertainty with the quarterback position, I think, hangs over all of this. But he's more a glorified third down back at this point than he is obviously anything more than that.
Pollard leaving Dallas to go to Nashville, Ray. It's not so much a Pollard situation now. It's almost like maybe Tennessee's going to change these stripes up a bit. Because Pollard, replacing Derrick Henry with Tony Pollard, I don't think that's a fair trade-off in terms of if you want to run the ball. Right. Pollard's a fine player, but he can't do Derrick Henry workloads. We got a new coaching staff in Tennessee, so maybe we got a new look with the Titans, or at least they're going to try to give us a new look with Will Levis and maybe open it up a bit. And, God forbid, Tennessee maybe pass first moving into the new year.
And it's another one, same contract, 3 years, $24 million for Pollard, just like with Swift. Pollard, by I think every objective measurement, was worse in 2023 than 2022. And there's not a lot of running backs that, their fifth year in the league start getting better when they're full-time backs like Pollard has been. So there's a legit concern there. He just didn't look like the same guy that he did backing up Ezekiel Elliott. The numbers supported the fact he didn't look like that guy. To your point, he's not the same runner as Derrick Henry is. He is a more complete player, sure. But Tajay Spears did a really good job last year catching the ball. And Tajay Spears looked electric in his limited role behind. So this is just a weird, Pollard
it's maybe just more like everybody, Ray, is saying, wow, look how cool Detroit looked last year with those two running backs. We can do that too. Or even to an extent of Philadelphia. But, it happens every year. We just see more teams say, yeah, we'll have a guy, a name, but we're not going to give him 300 touches. We'll pay Tony Pollard a decent amount. Mm-hmm. And we'll give him 190, and we'll still get Tajay Spears 150 or whatever it may be. Just more and more teams every single year. We knock off a few more names of teams just willing to set their backfield up that way.
Yeah, and we're still. I mean, this is another team. I guess it's Will Levis. We're not certain on that how they're going to play that. It's at the receiving core right now is DeAndre Hopkins and bust like Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Chris Moore, Chika Okonkwo, like. Let's go spend all this money on a running back. Why? Like it's just, yeah. So that is a work in progress. I'm not gonna, there's no final word that can be given on that. That to me seems like an odd signing. I think could use the money in a different spot more effectively for their offense, but we'll see.
So again, as we sit here, Ray just had the news. Aaron Jones this morning going to the Minnesota Vikings, 1 year, $7 million there. Mixon is still out there. You have to think it's something quick. Same with Derrick Henry. This isn't baseball where you're willing to wait around 6 months. Because remember, drafts coming up too. That's the other little inclination here for players to sign early is they want to get to a team before a team says, you know what, we'll just draft a running back. And we'll pay him $1 million. We'll give him in the third round. He can do exactly what Joe Mixon can do. So these guys probably will be signing in the next few hours. Outside of the backfield, Ray, the other big news was Kirk Cousins. And it's kind of wild. This tells you a lot about the QB position that, Atlanta has already given up on Desmond Ritter.
Which they should.
He's the future. No, he's not, So that's how quick it goes. B, a real vet coming off a severe injury is still yanking 4,180, Ray. And that vet Kirk Cousins is leaving Justin Jefferson. Give me Kyle Pitts, give me Drake London, give me Bijan Robinson. I'm not going to sweat the guy for taking a payday, but I think that's what Cousins is doing, Ray. Just taking another payday. And God love him. Hey, that's his prerogative. And maybe he is now in a better situation in Atlanta than he was in Minnesota, which is wild to think about, Ray, but maybe he's improved his spot playing in the NFC South. A young trio. What I don't like about this move, Ray, is now we get another 5 months of saying this is the year for Drake London. This is the year for Kyle Pitts. And Bijan Robinson's the top 6 pick with Kirk Cousins because now we can't blame the quarterback anymore in Atlanta. We got a guy who knows which way he's supposed to move the football on the field.
I'm looking at it right now. When his contract is up, if you plays all 4 years with the Falcons. You know how much career money he'll have earned? Kirk Cousins.
$700 million.
That Kyle, don't be ridiculous. It's only $411 million.
Okay.
$411 million. Kirk Cousins. $411. Meanwhile, I don't know. Joe Montana probably made $22 million his whole career. $411 million. Goodness gracious, he has certainly found the right time to hit the free agent market. And I mean, if Aaron Rodgers can't return from an Achilles injuries, what hope does Kirk Cousins have, Kyle? I mean, this is he's 35. This is a lot of money for a 35-year-old quarterback coming off a significant injury. The Achilles injury is one players do come back from, and he's not a running back, but it's still a significant injury for a guy that was never mobile to start with. And Cousins, like, there's risk there. Now, assuming that's okay. This is a quantum step for the Falcons in terms of the quarterback play they've gotten the last couple of years. Everyone will obviously get excited about Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. Like Kirk Cousins, if he's Kirk Cousins running this offense, we're going to have some bangers here, right? This is going to work. We'll see if that happens or not. We'll see if the new coaching staff follows the Arthur Smith model. They won't. And this really now pivot. I think the biggest news here, because that's something everyone's going to talk about. The biggest news is now going back to Minnesota, something you and I previously mentioned. We now got Sam Darnold chucking the ball for Justin Jefferson. Vikings fans, you just lost your quarterback and you're about ready to lose your wide receiver.
Yeah. That Jefferson's wanting a big contract, and maybe that's his excuse to get out of town. Oh, they won't pay me, so trade me, kind of thing. You mentioned Sam Darnold to Minnesota. It's a 1-year deal. Now, again, they may do something in the draft. They may have a competition, kind of like a Mayfield Trask thing of last season, or bring in somebody to compete. But as of now, Darnold's probably that guy. And don't forget Vegas, Ray. Gardner Minshew has been at it. He got big money. So I guess he's their starter for next season. Tyrod Taylor, he's, going to the Jets, backing up Aaron Rodgers. Who knows?
Oldest quarterback duo ever, Kyle? 35.
Is it really? Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Darnold and Minshew. And that Darnold, Ray, I guess, of a truly optimistic Viking fan might say, well, this isn't, it's not ruined. I think it's because we didn't see Sam Darnold at all this year. You don't realize, you don't remember like how bad he was. Been a while, I guess, since the Jets days, but that's what we're looking at with free agency, and certainly quarterbacks. Ray is saying, yeah, Gardner Minshew, come on down. It's just like Jameis Winston now getting $9 million to back up Deshaun Watson. You got Marcus Mariota going to Washington. I get it. You got to have a backup, Ray, and I guess it's fine, but it's like weird that Jameis Winston is a $9 million backup and Aaron Jones is begging for $7 million.
Yeah, right. And also what are the Commanders doing? Are they saying that Sam Howell's our quarterback and Marcus Mariota is now our backup? Because that's what it appears. Does that mean they're out and drafting a quarterback? Are you, because why do you bring Marcus Mariota?
They're having a pissing contest with the Bears. Bears are saying this is what it's going to cost you. And Commanders are saying, we don't have to pay that. We've got Sam Howell and Marcus Mariota.
I mean, okay. Yeah. It's like that. If you're reading that one, that would seem to suggest the Commanders aren't drafting a quarterback in the first round. I don't know. Sam Darnold, to be fair, was decent in Carolina, right? And he showed well in his limited action with the Niners. But if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm just depressed because we lost Kirk Cousins, then we traded for Dobbs and we said he was no good. We played Jaron Hall. We said he wasn't any good. We played Nick Mullins and he said he isn't good. So let's sign the veteran quarterback that's the same as those other three guys and Sam Darnold. They've got four the exact same. It's just like everyone should be a backup. And that's kind of depressing after you've had a Kirk Cousins throwing the ball for 4,300 yards and 28 touchdowns every year.
We should also mention New England got Jacoby Brissett. Ray and I are going to be 6 feet under. Jacoby Brissett will still be getting jobs somewhere. You can book that. But he's now in New England. Wide receivers, fairly quiet. This Jacksonville stuff, Ray, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like Gabe Davis and Devin Duvernay, that's an organization, Ray, that I feel is going to blow it with Trevor Lawrence. And I guess this indicates, Ray, Calvin Ridley's not coming back. Is that what you're seeing here when Gabe Davis and Devin Duvernay making actually decent money to come to Jacksonville?
Yeah, was it $339 for Davis? Jeff Mans lit them up yesterday on the Elite Sports
Should
Show.
have. Yeah.
3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. I'm on Wednesdays with Jeff. What are you doing? Now they're saying they're still trying to get Calvin Ridley. You're really going to spend $88 million on 2 wide receivers this offseason? Okay. And then you're going to have Davis and Ridley and Kirk. Like, how's that going to work? I don't know. Oh, by the way, we have a tight end that caught 100 passes. How's this going to work? Okay.
Isn't it supposed to be the case, Ray, when you draft this franchise-altering generational QB, you shouldn't have to then pile up 7 pass catchers for you to survive that guy?
I guess the argument of who makes who is it's not the quarterback in Jacksonville. And I think we can all easily pile on Trevor Lawrence, right? And I think it's warranted because the expectation said this guy was a generational quarterback, and he's struggling to be Kirk Cousins, right? That's the truth. They're giving him weapons and they're giving him opportunities. I think the signing of Davis was ridiculous. We've seen it. If he can't get it done consistently with Josh Allen, good luck there. I think that giving that much money to a wide receiver has to take them out of Calvin Ridley. They say no. I think it does. So we'll see. But yeah, it was a very odd signing. I think the Duvernay one was more for special teams. I hope they don't plan on giving him a significant pass catching role.
Special teams.
Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler, special teams. But yeah.
And hey, to Jacksonville's credit, 2 years ago, they got slammed for Christian Kirk.
True.
Gave all sorts of money.
True.
Now that's when they were in a rebuild. They had nothing at wide receiver, so they were trying to bring in anybody, so they overpaid. Now they appear to have other options at wide receiver, other things going on. Gabe Davis, just weird. At tight end, we just got some news. Mike Gesicki is to Cincinnati. Noah Fant's back with Seattle. At wide receiver, Michael Pittman, who was franchise tagged by Indianapolis, they ripped up that tag. He got a 3-year, $70 million deal. So there's your Calvin Ridley money. That's kind of what Ridley's going to be looking for, at least maybe over Michael Pittman. And then worth noting, Buffalo renegotiated with Josh Allen to save $17 million. And Miami renegotiated with Jalen Ramsey to open up $20 million. Right?
It's so fake. Like, what's the point? It's so ridiculous.
Oh, man. Buffalo, we warned you, man. I really think, Ray, the more I see this, Stephon Diggs is getting traded. I think that's the route they're going. Just seems like they're opening up money. They're going to have to get their defense better. They're going to have to help their offensive line. I think they trade Diggs for 2 draft picks that they probably need to get younger. And then you're like rolling Josh Allen. Like, if Gabe Davis is gone, they got to get a receiver somewhere.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe they can get in the Ridley game, again, how you manufacture the money, even though Buffalo's up against the cap. So, and here's the thing, anybody should want to play with Josh Allen.
For sure.
Any receiver out there. So those guys, be licking their chops, and wide receiver is not super deep. It's really good in the draft. So Buffalo can probably get one of those guys, but at free agency, it's a little thin. But that's kind of where we stand right now.
You think it's thin when we go to because again, you said there's a free agent tracker over at fantasyguru.com. You think the wide receiver position is thin when it lists Braxton Berrios? The free agent market is not overflowing with elite level wide receiver positions.
At least it's not like rolling out the name Eric Decker in 2024. It's not like they're looking at that. But Hollywood Brown's still out there. What other names do we got?
Well, Chase Claypool, if you want to dream.
No.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, KJ Osborne, Nick Whisper-Kakine, who I mentioned, Michael Thomas, if you want to take it back 5 years.
Now, Ray, here's the thing. If you're Calvin Ridley, you are in the catbird seat, and you're not even that great, but nobody else is comparable to Ridley on that.
I mean, Marquise Brown and Tyler Boyd, okay, but they're not in Ridley's class. So, Ridley's, and then maybe there's a trade with Higgins, or maybe, right, like you're saying, Calvin Ridley's going to get paid.
Here is Higgins, Diggs, Jefferson, if for some crazy reason those guys ended up.
But when, Kendrick Bourne got 3 years, $33 million. I mean, and we just talked about $339 for Davis. Is Ridley better than Gabe Davis? Who's going to say no, right? So, he's going to get paid. And I think, like you said, that Michael Pittman contract, Ridley's going to say, hey, man, I'm worth $25 million a year if that guy is.
Chaka the Furball Ray in our chat room has also given us breaking news. I have no idea if this is true, but we might as well report it, that the Cowboys have made a move and signed a long snapper. It looks like.
Jeremy Fowler reported that it is accurate. Yes.
Okay. Who Trent Sieg.
Cowboys. Did I click on the wrong?
Yeah. Click on that Chaka. Let's give him some credit, Ray. He broke the news, not you and I. No, all the way to one right.
I know. I'm trying to find it here. There's the
Hit the there you go. Yeah. And breaking, literally, news like slam the brakes on this offseason. We got a long snapper. So I don't know if that will preclude them from adding Derrick Henry. I could even see the Cowboys going after Ridley, right? With the way they build it.
I love this. Our buddy Pat Doherty often does the player notes over at Roto World. Here's the comment after the signing. It's proof of life transaction for the Cowboys.
They are involved. Yes, they are paying attention. We're going to be for another 40 minutes. So if we see anything, we got another one.
We got an update, a legitimate update. And it's Ian Rappaport.
Okay.
He's been better of late.
Tom Brady's back?
No, he's reporting that the Bengals, with the player that we just talked about at the running back position, Joe Mixon, the Bengals are now trading Joe Mixon before they released him to the Texans. So Zach Moss goes to Cincinnati. Mixon goes to Houston.
Devin Singletary to the Giants.
Yeah. So they decided instead of releasing him, they trade him. There's no rumor as to what obviously it's going to be a 7th round pick or something, right? But the Bengals are now trading Joe Mixon to the Texans, according to Ian Rappaport.
I don't mind that move at all for Houston. I don't think Joe Mixon has 3 years left in the tank, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can give you a couple. He's a little worn down, but still, it's an improvement for him.
Damian Pierce, yikes!
Yeah, they're just refusing to.
They're out. Yeah.
So
it's over for him. Like it's over for Damian Pierce in Texas. Maybe he stays there because of his contract and all, but he's a similar-ish player to Mixon in terms of early down work. So, I mean, for a guy that was on the cusp of looking like he was going to be this franchise leader in the backfield, he's gone to nothing in 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, you look at that Houston offense, and we're kind of dreaming a bit on what Tank Dell can be over a whole season. It sounds like Noah Brown's coming back to Houston. You obviously have Stroud. They signed Dalton Schultz. They signed Kamari Fairburn. I mean, they're spending money down in Houston, no doubt. So there we are. Mixon traded. Reports where he was going to be released, but there's always calendars and everything. So Mixon traded to Houston and then Aaron Jones to Minnesota. So Derrick Henry, your move. Baltimore? Boy, Ray, you talk, if that happens, the threat of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on like a QB RPO, I mean, yikes.
Can you imagine, but the difference in running styles too, a massive human being that'll truck you and a slippery slide, like that's quite a mixture too, if that worked out.
Baltimore's got to be salivating at the idea, just to have those two guys. And it's a question of what Henry can give you, but he's still big, as Ray noted. So that'd be a scary one as an NFL cornerback with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So moves by the minute here. We'll keep you up to date as we move forward. We do got to get some baseball. We were talking yesterday about Edwin Diaz debuting. Pretty good. Faced 3 batters. He struck out all 3. Speaking of strikeouts, if he wasn't the number 1 guy 2 weeks ago at pitcher, he absolutely is now. Spencer Strider, who not only doesn't have to contend with Garrett Cole, but Ray, now he is just like lights out in spring training. He had 9 more strikeouts in 5 innings yesterday. He still has yet to give up a run in 14 innings, and he's got 22 strikeouts. Like, take it easy, buddy. Slow it down. We don't need all of this in, Disneyland down in Florida. I mean, pull back just a bit, right?
I guess that new curveball works, and that's scary because he's basically been a 2-pitch guy and dominated. And if that curveball that he's throwing, even if it's not a great pitch, if it's just an average pitch, to give that different look, to give the different speed, the different sight lines, all that, he's a banger. And again, everyone is great until they turn into Garrett Cole. Everyone's great until they get hurt. So, Strider deserves to be the number 1 guy off the board. People keep asking me, I look at your ranking. Yeah, he's the number 1 guy. Am I taking him in the first round? No, I don't think anyone should, but he's the number 1 guy to go with if you're going to do that.
As for Garrett Cole, I'm a little surprised we don't have the news yet.
They said last night, we probably wouldn't even hear today. I don't know, dude. Like,
that's not good. I'll tell you, Ray, that's not good because that means the Yankees are looking at other options, and maybe right now they're negotiating as we speak with somebody like Blake Snell. Because and Boris knows this too, but now, Ray, you almost want to say, hey, Garrett Cole's going to miss 3 months, whatever, out for the year. But we signed Blake Snell,
Right.
like let's soften the blow just a bit.
Well, I mean, the Yankees are worth billions of dollars. Their pitcher's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Pretty sure when he goes to the doctor, it's not like you and I where they say, we'll get back to you in 5 days. They're going to go get back to you in 5 minutes. They're going to go read it right now. You've never been
in a waiting room with Garrett Cole for like 50 minutes as you wait to be called to the back?
Yeah. What are you in for?
In waiting rooms?
What are you in for? Oh, they're looking at my MRI. Oh, I'm just in for the flu.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is reading between the lines. That would seem to suggest something's going on free agency like you're talking about, or maybe they're a little more concerned they're letting on with his health.
Lucas Giolito, we have a report, Ray. He's going to have elbow surgery today, and the Red Sox are telling us they won't really know the prognosis and the rehab and the comeback date until they get in there and look at the elbow, which makes a bit of sense, if it's nothing clear. But he's undraftable right now with elbow surgery.
Quick too. Usually, even when you have a UCL tear, they wait for the swelling to go down a little bit. Like they're getting in there quick. So yeah, I think that it's you hear it and you're like, what the hell are you talking? They don't know. But given the situation, I can understand it.
Okay. So that's kind of the latest on that news. In NFL, it's signings like crazy, movement like crazy. In baseball, it's injuries. Not like crazy, but there's a lot of them starting to pile up. Let's get to a position, Ray, that is full of injuries. Relief pitchers. Yesterday, we kind of popped the lid on all things relief pitchers, starting with a rundown of kind of what went down last season, kind of talked about building bullpens in general. Today, as is tradition on a Tuesday, we talk about surprises from last year. And there's actually a lot of guys. Some of these we talked about yesterday, so didn't want to belabor the point. But when we talk about surprises, I guess these guys kind of stood out the most to me, Ray. Alexis Diaz became like a real shutdown artist with Cincinnati. Tanner Scott, kind of while nobody was looking or paying attention. Miami's been looking for closers forever and ever and ever. They've tried out so many guys Anthony Bender and guys like that. And eventually it looks like Tanner Scott's the guy. He's getting a little heat coming into this year. Finnegan's surprised last year. Nobody's really expecting him to do it again this year. And then you're going to see 3 names at the back, Ray. Poche, Ginkel, and Robertson, who aren't save guys, really. But they all were top 20, top 25 in terms of value earned in the relief position. So I wanted to throw them in there to kind of reiterate the point that you can still get valuable contributors, top 20, top 25 guys, even without landing the 9th inning. Like you can still pitch the 8th inning all year, Ray, and turn in a very positive season for the bottom line. Absolutely. And Robertson might end up being the saves guy this year in Texas. Maybe he'll share the role with Leclerc. So he's hanging on as he approaches his 40th birthday. Poche is a very interesting guy because we've talked about this. He had more victories last year than Logan Webb. He had 12 victories. He's never going to get 12 victories again as a reliever. Okay. So that drove a lot of his value, but still his ERA was 2.2, his whip was 1.1, and he had a strikeout an inning. I mean, he still was really good. And for those of you in holds leagues, he's had 23 and 22 holds the last 2 years. So solid number there. He's a very good pitcher on a team in Tampa that knows what the plan is, knows how they're going to use him. 65 outings 2 years ago, 66 last year, 58 innings, 60 innings. Like they've got it figured out. So we're going to get 65 appearances for him. We're going to get 64 strikeouts and solid ratios. And then it's a matter of how many saves does he get? One last year, and how many victories. But yeah, you can get, and this goes to the argument of, is it worth paying the price for these closers in the 4th, 5th round that people are doing on draft day? Is it worth doing that? There's more certainty that those guys will have success than a guy you're taking in the 25th round. But those guys that you do take in the 25th round can sometimes return massive value. Well, and you have that sub headline there. Guys who were drafted outside the top 250 last year that had at least 20 saves. And that is a list of 6 guys, I think it is. Finnegan, Kimbrel, Estevez, May, Smith, and Alzolay. We'll probably be repeating that number next year, Ray. That's even a smaller number than normal. There was more consistency last year at the reliever position than we're used to seeing in the recent past. Finnegan is the guy I want to talk about, Ray. He's kind of a new Mark Melancon, maybe. A guy that, he hasn't had the big save years like Melancon, but I feel like nobody, he had 40 or 28 last year. But he's up to 50 in 3 years. And he's kind of just stuck around. I don't think the Nationals ever said he's our closer, but he's stuck around and held on the job. I've noticed, though, again, nobody thinks he's going to hold on to the job this year. He was fine last year, and I get why nobody's excited. The thing with him, Ray, and this is the agony of owning him, he is a rip your heart out reliever because he gives up home runs in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
He doesn't give up like 2 bloop shots and loses a game, or a ground ball that had eyes and gets into right field. He gives up bombs that turn a 2-run lead into a 1-1 loss. And that's the agony of Finnegan. I agree with the general public, Ray, but I think it's interesting that everybody's just kind of out on him and really has no expectation that he's repeating the 28 saves of a year ago.
I think it would be a really good plan for the folks listening, if you're going to tandem relievers, to go Finnegan and Hunter Harvey, because, last year those two guys had 38 saves. I think that Hunter Harvey, and this is what I think a lot of people are seeing, Kyle, he's got 2 things going for him. 1, he's not left-handed like Finnegan, and 2, he's better than Finnegan, period. He's more talented. Now, the problem for Hunter Harvey is he's been that guy for 7 years and he can't stay healthy. So last year was the first time he stayed healthy, right? So there is that health. I have to guess here. If the Nationals felt good about him making 60 outings, I don't know why they wouldn't have him be their closer, just because he is more talented than Finnegan. But I think the plan is, and it's very likely to play out this week, that there's a mix and match. Maybe both guys get 18 saves. It's hard to say one of them getting 30, unless the other guy gets hurt. I think this will be a lefty-righty, velocity versus, kind of mix and match scenario. And they have 2 very different stylistic pitchers to do that with, and both of them are accomplished. So I think it could work out, but it could make both of them just moderate saves guys, which I think why there's not a lot of excitement for getting them on draft day.
I've noticed in many drafts, Ray Flowers is a Tanner Scott guy.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray, give us the rundown. You're not someone we've talked about a lot. You're not going to draft the top 8,
right?
Maybe not even top 10 reliever, at least according to ADP. You are going to draft Tanner Scott, though.
Yep.
You got him in a lot of spots going into this season, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, Tanner Scott, and the last 2 years, and the average strikeout rate's about 22, 23% most years. The last 2 years, his rate's 32%. So it's not Edwin Diaz, but it's elite. It's still an elite number. He misses a ton of bats. And last year he did something that he struggled to do his entire career, and that's just throw strikes. His walk rate was double digits every year of his career heading into last season. And then last year it was 8%. So he went from being awful in the strikeout and the walk rate to better than league average, about a percentage better than league average. Is that something that is sustainable long-term? That's the question. Because if Scott, and he's one of these traditional flame-throwing guys out of the bullpen that is hard as all hell to hit. I mean, look at his first pitch strike rate was 56%. So just barely half the time he threw strike one. Last year it was 69%. If he gets ahead 0-1, this is Craig Kimbrell as a lefty. If he gets ahead 0-1. So if he holds on to that walk rate again, this guy's getting 30 saves this year for the Marlins.
You mentioned his walk rate dropping. Alexis Diaz's guy still, if he dropped that walk rate, maybe a batter and a half, Lovely would be 2 guys. Then we're talking about something special with Alexis Diaz. And Ray, he's been good, but he still has those fits of wildness, if you will.
Yeah, then he'd be his brother if he could do that, right? He's really effective, Diaz. He is dominant, but you're right. The walk rate, just like Tanner Scott, in 2 years is almost 13%, which is a really awful number. Now, luckily for him, he's got that 31% strikeout rate, very much like Tanner Scott, which again is part of the reason why we're talking about Tanner Scott becoming a guy who can save 37 games like Diaz did last year. Diaz has kind of withstood the test of everyone else in the bullpen. The Reds bullpen every year has 5 guys hurt. For 5 years now, every reliever's gotten hurt. And Diaz kind of emerged because he was the guy that stayed healthy. And there are more dominant arms, but not by much. There's certainly more effective arms, but not by much. He lives on that borderline, as a lot of closers have over the years, of, Craig Kimbrell. Again, when he's on, he's blowing through guys. When he's off, it can get ugly.
That is a look at some of the surprises in the relief pitching position of last season. Tomorrow we'll get some disappointments from last season. And usually when you disappoint, you don't have a job the next year. So some of these guys you might say, well, I don't care about the disappointment. They're not even on my draft board coming into this year. We'll get to those guys coming up tomorrow. Continuing along our journey through the world of baseball, we continue along through our team previews. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on the agenda today. They are a team who have David Bednar in their bullpen, who's kind of solidified probably being one of the top 10 guys over the last couple of years for Pittsburgh. But we will not start with David Bednar. Instead, we will open the curtain on the Pittsburgh Pirates by talking about a newcomer, Edward Olivares, who comes from Kansas City. So he goes from one sad sack small market to another sad sack small market. But Ray, that doesn't stop you from breaking him down. So Edward Olivares, what do you see when you look at Edward Olivares?
I see a lot of power, and I see a guy that could be an effective depth option in mixed leagues. He's not like he's hit 270 last 2 years. The odds of him hitting 270 over a full season, 50-50. Maybe it's 259. Like, he's not going to kill you in batting average. He's not going to boost you in batting average. He has an advantage here that it appears that the Pirates will play him every day. And that's the big thing with the Royals. He was up, he was down, he was in the lineup, he was out of the lineup. There was no consistency with how they utilized him. But he's a solid offensive player. His isolated power mark is about league average. I mentioned the batting average being slightly better than that. The strikeout rate is solid. We were just talking about it with pitchers and everything. Excuse me. He's 19% for the K rate. The league average is about 23%. So this is a player that, another reason why he could hit 260. Could hit 260 and let's call it 20 home runs. So again, this is not sexy or exciting. This is merely, I'm with the Pirates. I'm hoping to get 500 plate appearances. I think there's a path to that. If I was with another team, that number might be 300, and then who cares? But I think that he could be one of those sneaky guys that at the end of the year, he goes 260, 2170, and it's not sexy or exciting, but there are moments in a season when you're in a 12 or 15 team mixed league where there might be some value to that.
I mean, Ray, he is so just forgotten. It doesn't help. He's hidden in Pittsburgh. He's probably going to be in the lower half of the lineup here. He's done nothing that really has caught eyes before. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for this sort of profile, or you like taking your shot, just understand you don't have to call this name early.
Not at all.
At all. I mean, this is a late bench pick, 28th, 27th round, something like that.
Let me pull up his ADP. I think his ADP might even not be registering. It's 560. He's your last pick. So yeah, this is not, don't mistake this discussion of you got to get this guy. No. He's not Nelson Velasquez. All right. But this is someone that the last pick, if you want to take a dart throw, or even more likely in season when the injuries start to hit at the outfield spot.
I was thinking you like Velasquez over Olivares, right, Nelson?
Yes.
And, how about Ryan O'Hearn over Olivares? Is it O'Hearn?
Well, I think a different position. You get the first base thing. Ryan O'Hearn or Velasquez, you said?
No, O'Hearn and Olivares. Is it O'Hearn?
I think O'Hearn is a more well-rounded player, but the problem O'Hearn has, though he has a role right now after his strong season last year against right-handed pitching, the Orioles have like 412 youngsters. They've got a lot of guys they're going to need to get in that lineup. So I'd go O'Hearn, but I can't see O'Hearn being better than last season, and it's likely he's going to pull back from last season.
4 questions for the Pirates. And this first one, Ray and I have addressed. In fact, he's the cover boy of Ray's Fantasy Guru Draft Guide. It's the return of O'Neal Cruz. And Ray, you'd kind of mentioned maybe a few weeks back how it's kind of, people are forgetting O'Neal Cruz. I think they've now awakened because he has hit some absolute lasers in spring games. Yeah. He's got like 3 home runs where they were each like 115 miles an hour or more off the bat. And I think we're all being quickly reminded, Ray, of the skill set. We've seen it in drafts. There may have been a little sleepiness on him maybe in early February. That's kind of gone here by mid-March, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's very interesting to watch the evolution of this because, I'm always involved in the draft process because we cover them all at Sirius, right? Seeing 2 guys in particular, Wyatt Langford has shot 50 spots up at ADP at least. And I think O'Neal Cruz hasn't gone up 50, but he's gone up multiple rounds. Mm-hmm. And you're totally right about that. And, last night I in the FSGA league, and I'll again have a write-up over at the site, I took Elly De La Cruz and O'Neal Cruz. Let's go. I mean, they're the cover boys, like you said, of the draft guide. I think that people do forget the fact that, Elly De La Cruz is the second coming of O'Neal Cruz. We talked about O'Neal Cruz, who hits the ball. He hit a ball harder than anyone's ever hit a ball, according to StatCast. He throws the ball as hard as anyone. He runs almost as fast as it. I mean, he is a phenomenal player. And, to your point, when guys are piping him fastballs at his belt and he's ripping them 450 feet out at spring training, people remember just how good this guy can be.
Question number 2. A year ago at this time, right? Mitch Keller was just less than a guy. Like, this is never going to work. Made some true strides. Now, it's worth noting his ERA was actually higher in 2023 than 2022, which I get it with ERA, but hey, folks, we score it. So I just want you to know that. His strikeouts took off. He made an all-star game. Now he's got a new contract with Pittsburgh. Like what we've seen in the last 12 months, Ray, indicates, okay, this guy's a building piece, kind of your stud. Is he? I really we're always going to hesitate with the ace of the Pirates, at least in this generation.
Right.
I'm still pretty hesitant with Mitch Keller, like buying in and maybe making him a low-end SP3. I'm just wary of Mitch Keller right now.
Won more games last year than Logan Webb. Maybe that is kind of
I won more games than last year.
The FSGA draft 14-team mixed league. I took Mitch Keller last night as my 4th SP.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. I think that Mitch Keller can become, throw away last year, folks. Don't remember last year. Can become the modern day Lance Lynn. Right? He's a guy that can throw 180 innings every year, strike out 190 guys every year, win double-digit games. Ratios aren't going to kill you. They're not necessarily going to help you. If I had to put it, 4 ERA and a 1.25 WHIP with 197 strikeouts. And again, as a 4th starting pitcher in a 14-team league like I got last night, I love that.
Question number 3. When does Paul Skenes, probably the best pitching prospect in baseball, when does he arrive? When's he? I think it's going to be June, Ray. I think he'll be up by the middle of the summer with the Pirates.
Well, he better be before his arm flies off because he throws 100 miles an hour, right? We know how this goes. That'd be my worry if I'm the Pirates. I know he's inexperienced, but let's get him the hell up here. I'd say mid-June. I'd say before the All-Star break. I'll say right before the All-Star break. Just, let's get him 15 to 18 starts at the big league level. Let's get him 97 innings or whatever the hell it ends up being, and have some success to build on for 2025.
For anybody thinking of drafting and stashing, and again, hard and fast rules are really difficult in fantasy baseball. But Ray, if I made this my rule, you can draft Skenes whenever you want, but you better have 4 starting pitchers before you do it. That could be any round, and I'm probably not going to get Skenes in a lot of places, but I'd want to have 4 starting pitchers, Ray, before I turn to this guy in a redraft league.
I would say 5, honestly, if you could. Yeah, I think, and again, everyone's got a different risk tolerance, and it depends if you're starting 7 pitchers or 9 and how big your rosters are and all that. But I would say I'd like him to be my 6 or 7. That's would be my preference.
4th and final fantasy relevant question with this Pittsburgh Bucks team. Ke'Bryan Hayes, is there another level? He showed a bit of it last season, Ray. The first 2 years were blah. Got up to where he's average to above average at bat. Fantasy wise, are you looking for more? I mean, can we get 20 homers? Can we get 80 ribbies? Can we get 15 steals? Could we get an average of 285? Like those would all be improvements on last year. And I don't think any guy is going to improve like 4 or 5 categories, but I kind of think he's just there. Maybe a little more home run potential, but I don't think this guy will ever be like a top 8 fantasy player at third base.
Last year, compared to his first 3 seasons, his exit velocity went up, his hard hit rate went up, his barrel rate went up. All positive. I think the biggest change is his launch angle went from 4%, which is not good, to 13%, which is pretty good, right? Ideally, you'd want to be 15 to 20%, I think, if you're him in his style of hitting, but that's a significant change, and that takes him from hitting the 7 home runs he hit 2 years ago to 15 last year. Mm-hmm. I think that he could be a little bit better than he was last year, but not sexy. To your point, he's kind of just there offensively. The key for him will be how much running does he do. His last 3 years, he's had 9, 20, and 10 steals. If he's stealing 10 bases, If he's stealing 20 bases, we can live with the offense being moderate at the third base spot.
Yeah, that may be his calling card, Ray, if he can lift that number. Then everything looks more bright when you have 22 steals next to your name. Those are the 4 questions for the Pirates. Now, in terms of newcomers, we talked about one with Edwin Olivares. Let's see, other guys we got. Rowdy Tellez is there. Yasmani Grandal, Marco Gonzalez, Martin Perez. So that's kind of where the Pirates are. They're in a rebuild, but to their credit, they're at least giving some, regular major leaguers some time to at least get us to the All-Star break, and by then, hopefully the youngsters are up. In terms of prospects, Skenes is number one, but they got a couple of other pitchers. Bubba Chandler is a high-end pitcher, and Quinn Priester is another guy. So all three of those guys we could see at some point this year for the Pirates. But again, Skenes is at the top. Termarr Johnson's an infielder who's got probably top 20 prospect tag on him. I wouldn't suspect him this year. I don't think that's worth drafting, Ray, but there'll probably be a point, August, September, people will pick him up.
Is he 21 yet? I don't even know if he's 21. No, he's
I
only.
can see the Pirates doing like the Jordan Lawler thing with him, like they did last season with him.
He's not even 20 until June. He's still super young. Yeah,
so
you're right about the pedigree, but I wouldn't draft him if I was going to draft a guy. Let's not overlook Jared Jones, who might end up in the rotation to start the year. Yeah, but Johnson's future is really bright. But yeah, I would really pump the brakes on 2024.
Who do you take a chance on with this team, Ray?
It's O'Neal Cruz, but to answer the question, just for the benefit of the listener, Henry Davis for the following reason. He doesn't qualify at catcher right now, okay? But he's going to be their catcher. So, he's someone whose ADP falls in a lot of drafts. If your league mates aren't savvy, he could fall way down in the draft and be an excellent second catcher.
I'm actually going to go, Ray, with Jake Sawinski. Who, again, costs nothing. He's in the Edward Olivares area. But I'm throwing him on there. Advanced Analytics loves Sawinski. Now, people who like baseball don't because he strikes out time and a half a game. He's a lot of grip and rip. But unlike a lot of other grip and rip guys, he can steal a base. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he goes like 25-15. Last year, he was 26-13. That was in a lot of gameplay. He got 535 plate appearances. So you would need a repeat of that. He's only 24 as well. So, Ray kind of likes Olivares, maybe very late, a little bit. Sawinski's probably my guy in that outfield as the guy I'd take a chance on. My pass is Henry Davis, Ray. I totally give you credit on the catcher thing. You're right. If people play that game, know he's a catcher too. I don't know that he can hit much. So as a catcher too, you're right. That probably plays, and you get the eligibility of, kind of the poor man's Dalton Varsho, if you will. But I wouldn't look for. I think when he hits it, Ray, you'll see wow, that guy hit a 440-foot home run, but I don't think there'll be enough of those to cover up the ugly moments for him.
Well, the real problem with him, too, even if you want to draft him to fill that role, is you need a third catcher. So you got to take two catchers and Henry Davis. And is he worth using in the outfield the first 2 weeks or however long it takes to get catcher eligibility? He only played 2 games there last year. So yeah. So that's the rough part about Henry Davis is that you got to have the patience to, wait out getting 3 catchers on your roster.
Who's your pass on with the Pirates?
2 guys, 2 lefties, 32 years old. I might throw as hard. Martin Perez and Marco Gonzalez just don't. Even if you're in the only setup, just don't. They don't have a win outlook. Neither guy's going to miss bats. They're just going to go out there. And to Kyle's point, he said this previously, they need innings. They're going to go out there. And if they're getting beat, they're still throwing 5 innings. So stay away from those 2 lefties.
Ray, your 20-second explanation of why you should say it was unnecessary for Marco Gonzalez and Martin Perez. Everybody was sitting there going, yep. Yeah. No convincing was needed on that one. Okay, that is a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, we're going to get to some hoops quickly, but before that, MLB Draft Guide. Every day we like to profile something going on there. Yesterday we didn't get to this, but I do want to give it at least a look-see today. The biggest questions of the year answered. This is kind of one of those overarching columns that Ray puts together in each and every draft guide. How many questions overall do you recall that this article is answering this season?
12 to 15, I want to say. Something like that, yeah.
And you've profiled 2 of them. So give us the rundown. One is why does everybody seem out on Christian Yelich? Are you talking to me, Ray? And number 2, is Mike Trout still elite? So hit on those 2 questions.
Yeah, Yelich. Yeah, I've been talking to you. We're now to Yelich for 3 years now, Kyle.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me.
I think that, and we saw last year, the expectation game gets you. If you're expecting a 10 and you get an 8, you're pissed off, but 8's still pretty good. And I think that's where Christian Yelich is, and he showed it again last year. He's had back issues. I think it's going to continue to be something like the days of playing 155 games are gone. The days of 40 home runs, they're gone. But he's still a very effective player, and he showed it again last year. Look at that. A home run and 2 steals away from going 20-30, hitting 275 with 100 runs scored. Like, he's still really good and really effective. In some leagues, you'll get a little bit of a discount because of that. And then the Mike Trout one, I wrote this on, January 2nd. And as we've looked at ADP, now we're starting to see even in the expert leagues as well that Mike Trout's coming off the board as maybe an outfielder 1, oftentimes an outfielder 2. And it has just really to do with his health. And, he doesn't run. The batting average has started to become an issue. The swing and miss has started to become an issue. And as you can see there on the screen, and you can read it more in depth at the site, he's had a hard time staying on the field. He's played 2/3 of the games the last 7 years. And as Kyle always says, as you get older, something like that doesn't normally get better.
Well, and he's had injuries all over the place too, and now it's getting to the point, especially on the muscle side, where the recovery has been so slow with him. And this is very normal, like you said, when you're in your 30s, but it's still kind of hard to watch and hard to draft with Mike Trout. So that is a couple of the biggest questions. But again, Ray says he's got about 12 to 15 giant ones you're going to want to know about. So check out the draft guide, and you will get the write-ups. You will get the answers to all of those questions right now. You download it and boom, you got them. That and many, many other things popping up in that fantasy draft guide. Okay, let's spend a few moments talking some hoops, shall we? Justin Finsterman is with us, as he is wont to do every Tuesday. He did a wonderful job hosting the FSGA Champions League. I jumped in late. Ray was there all the time. You can find it on the SiriusXM app. So you're looking for a little draft coverage, that was a 14-team mixed league with a lot of great experts. I said this last night. It's a really loaded field in that Champions League. So Ray finished second last year. So he performed quite well. This year he's looking to take the title. Justin, it's good to have you back on board. I think the three of us were talking almost exactly 12 hours ago. So did everybody sleep well?
I didn't sleep for like the 3 hours after that. I was so, I don't know how people, Kyle, I don't know if you're like this.
I went right to bed, Jess. I did.
How do you go right to bed after these draft shows? I have so much adrenaline. I need to watch like 3 Sopranos episodes before I can fall asleep.
I think I read like an article on how AI and drones is helping Ukraine against Russia, and then I went to bed. That's why you brought up
Sopranos,
and I'm reading about war. I don't know.
That's
I watched The Bachelor and poor Joey. That's what I did. So I could go to sleep pretty quick there after too, Justin. I don't know. I was in the draft too. Maybe I was just mentally tired. I don't know.
Yeah, I can go right to bed. It's like no issue.
Yeah, there's a reason you guys brought up Putin last night, Kyle, during the draft.
Yeah, because I was ready to read that article. I was pumped. Just get this broadcast over. Let me read about a stalemate.
Right, better than talking about unlimited IL spots.
Yeah. Ray Flowers at his unlimited IL spot. We got to be fair. It's no fair.
What's the point of a waiver wire if there's nobody on waivers all year long from day one?
No, we don't have time for this,
okay,
Justin.
Sorry.
You guys can argue about this tonight on the show, okay? Not right now. We're here to talk NBA. Celtics, I want to start there. Another win last night, I think so, playing Portland. They got that win, I think so. Finished off things. And it's all Tatum, and it's all Brown. I want to give a shout-out to your former Knick, Kristaps Porziņģis, who isn't playing every game. Nobody does, but he's actually, I guess, healthy. And he still looks like he's going to break in half the time. He was the original Wembanyama, but I want to give him credit because the dude has put up some good numbers when he's on the court this year, hasn't he?
No, he has. And I mean, he's been very good. He's been their best shooter of their consistent scores, 52% from the floor, and also averaging about 2 blocks per game. The rebounding you always wish is a little bit more than 7, but he's averaging 7 too. But Kyle, the big thing is, like you outlined, he's missed just 18 games this year, which is a good year for Kristaps Porziņģis. Ray, you like that? He's
only missed a third of the games this year. Woo!
Yeah, we still have like 20 games to go. He'll probably miss another 5 or 6 on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, but they're also, it's not all injury. They're being careful with him. And I think he falls under because he's a chronically injured player, he gets around some of the resting rules.
Yeah. Well, and let me follow real quick because I mentioned that game last night. The Celtics playing again tonight. will they be resting Tatum and Brown? Like for the DFS players, is that going to probably happen with the Celtics tonight?
So they were both designated going into yesterday, as was Derek White, as was Drew Holiday, and it was just about everyone. And then it was cleared up very quickly, guys. So I think that could be the case. Jaylen Brown's been dealing with a sore pelvis of all things. How you play through a sore pelvis, I don't understand. But it wouldn't be surprising because Utah themselves are also pretty damaged, especially up front. And even though they've been a good home team, there's no reason why the Celtics shouldn't wax them tonight. So it wouldn't be shocking to see Jaylen Brown maybe getting a game out. I think Porziņģis is going to end up playing since he was out last night. So I think with that, Porziņģis is going to end up being in. So I think if anything, you're going to watch out for Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown tonight.
I know that you were on the Elite Sports Show yesterday, Justin, talking hoops with Jeff Manns. It's 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. And you even said, I'm roughly quoting you, there's more injuries this year than even normal in the NBA. You said it's really starting to kind of pick up of late. And Alperen Sengun is one of these guys, injured his ankle, his knee. I don't know. He's going to be out for a while. What do the Rockets do from a fantasy standpoint to overcome the loss of him in their lineup?
And Ray, that's one of the big reasons why unders are hitting constantly, because these teams are just very damaged right now. Jock Landale is my prediction for who's going to be starting in place of Sengun. It's a bone bruise on the knee. It's a bad ankle injury, so I'm expecting him to be out for at least the next 3 weeks, maybe the next 4. We've only got 4 to 5 left in the season. So I think Landale is that player because they've got other injuries on that team. Remember, they traded for Steven Adams, who was already injured and out for the year, so they can't get any relief from him. So it's going to be Landale, who, by the way, put up a decent line against Domantas Sabonis, one of the better defensive centers in the NBA in 17 minutes, a nice stat line of 9, 4, 5, and 1 block. You'll take that at 3,300 if you have the guts to play him. He's 4,800 on DraftKings, so DFS and season-long value. Jabari Smith, I've been begging this guy to play more in the post. Now's the opportunity with no Sengun and the passing from the post. You're going to see Jabari Smith leave the arc more. So I'm watching him. And for betting purposes, guys, he's someone that even though we missed last time on his points, I'm going to be looking at his PRs and potentially writing them up tonight.
Justin Fensterman talking to us a little hoops here on the show. Justin, what about Trey Murphy? Trey Murphy, all of a sudden, he's going off for the Pelicans of late. What are we expecting here from Trey Murphy?
So, guys, when it comes to this team, and I was looking at their schedule, and I still have it up here, the Pelicans have had a lot of soft matchups. They faced, like most of the damaged teams. They faced the Indiana Pacers, teams you could beat. So they've been crushing teams lately, and that's where Murphy's been getting his production from. Blowout run. So now you start looking at who they have left. Their schedule gets a little bit tougher, though, coming up soon. So we're going to enjoy this for the next few games. But then once they start facing the more competitive teams in the East and West, which is coming up in their final 18 games or so, it's going to get tougher for Murphy to get those minutes. The starters are going to have to play more.
Justin Finsterman with us, talking a little hoops. Justin, you mentioned injuries. Ben Simmons. Remember Ben Simmons? Out for the year. Back injury. Done for the year. Are we done with him? Is it finished in fantasy? Like, is it just, what the hell? I've never.
It's not. It's definitely not, because Kyle, you and I were talking last night during the draft broadcast how much we like points leagues. In points leagues, this guy still holds value in 18 minutes.
20 games?
I understand that, Kyle, but look, if you have a zillion IL spots like in these industry fantasy baseball leagues, you could just draft them and stash them all year and not even worry about losing anybody, just like you can stash half the league. So that's why, because there are NBA leagues as well that have 5 or 5,000 IL spots. So why not at this point hold on to him? And if he can play you 18 minutes per game and he helps you out for maybe a month or two, I know that's backwards thinking, but with unlimited IL spots, why the hell not?
See, Ray, you're supporting Ben Simmons, Ray. That's what you're doing here.
Anything that supports Ben Simmons needs to be rectified immediately.
I mean, look, the guy produces when he's on the court.
Yeah, he's pulled off the impossible. He's actually been injured more than years on earth.
Imagine how much money
injury. It's crazy. Charlotte. Now we've talked about injuries, balls, and I was going through I was scrolling around on the internet. I don't read about the NBA every day, but I saw a waiver column, and there were 4 different Hornets. And I think you could even add a 5th as I started to say, who the hell's left? But there were 4 different guys on this team that people were like, pick them up off the waiver, pick them up off the waiver. Trey Mann, Grant Williams, I think it's Vasily Micic.
Yep.
And Nick Richards. Are again, it depends on your league, but are any of these guys like legitimate down the stretch, or is it purely a minutes thing for them?
Well, no, Richards has actually been playing very good defense as of late. Normally, I've been attacking Charlotte again and again and again when it comes to bigs. I've stopped doing that because when Nick Richards is in, he's been very good at holding down the post. From a fantasy standpoint, I don't think you're finding him on the waiver wire anymore of the 4 guys that you mentioned. Unless you're in a 10-team league, then maybe you find him. Mark Williams, their starting center, is looking like he's not coming back for the rest of the year. We don't know about LaMelo Ball at this point, but you got to think that he's going to be out for at least another few weeks. Trey Mann would be the pickup. He's dealing with a groin injury. Groin injuries are very tricky, so he's day-to-day, so we could be going along for a ride with that. Micic is a valuable pickup, and I think because this team's going nowhere, I think he gets more minutes down the stretch, even if LaMelo Ball does come back. Grant Williams, too, mainly just a scorer, but lately he's been producing in other areas, such as rebounding a little bit more and assists, and that all adds up. So if you pick up Grant Williams, keep him on a little bit of a short leash. So with any of those, Mann and Micic would be good, but again, Mann would be the pickup. So if you have unlimited IL spots, you can pick him up and stash him immediately and then grab Micic.
Jeff Mans is always dealing with the groin issue too, guys. So yeah, that makes sense. Justin, there's no odds that I'm aware of for injured waiver wire additions, but we're starting to come down the stretch here, and starting to get a solidification in the odds market of who's going to win the major awards. Are there any long shots at any of the major awards that you think, hey, I got 10 shekels, let's go for it? Because the odds play a huge part in where you're going to go, even if the bookmakers, if you will, seem to be settling on some names.
Ray, I just submitted a ticket for Coach of the Year at plus 4,000.
Pat Riley.
Jamal Mosley of the Orlando Magic. This Magic team does not have the star power yet. Paolo Banchero is growing. Franz Wagner is growing. They don't have that star power, and they've been able to hang in there in the Eastern Conference all year. This is the one award where it's not given really to the obvious. Yes, Mark Daigneault can absolutely win it. The Thunder have looked great, but you've seen some of the past winners, not first place teams. And that's something very interesting. And so I was actually listening to a few other NBA analysts, and they were saying, this award generally goes to a feel-good story. And that's what the Magic are. We've been talking. We don't like to attack them. They slow your ass down. They play at a tremendously slow pace themselves. Very solid defensive team. No big three in sight. No star power. Homegrown. I mean, how can you not love what this team is doing, even though they're boring to watch? Plus 4,000, putting a 5 spot on it to win 205. And to me, that's a legitimate bet. A lot of these other awards, I think, are pretty much done at this point. This Coach of the Year one is not always the obvious coach.
Seems wild that the Magic have almost been non-existent in the public's consciousness for 20 years.
Right.
And literally, 25 years maybe. And I know they've had teams that have popped or gotten into the playoffs, but it just seems like they have the Shaq Penny days, and that's like it for that organization.
Do you guys realize that if the Orlando Magic just were smart enough to realize that when Alonzo Mourning got his contract offer of $100 million in 96 from the Miami Heat, if they were smart enough to take their offer, which at the time was 80 for 4, $20 million a year, nice, and bring it up to about 105, Orlando would have probably won a couple of titles, and you would have had Shaq there. Even if Penny broke down, they would have brought someone else, and Shaq would have never left Orlando.
He finally got his number retired, right? Just recently.
He did, and it's funny. He played 4 years there, and that's it. It's like you think, but that's the thing. That's how polarizing he was. We didn't have the internet to be watching reels. It was highlights of Shaq the entire time. You're seeing this big behemoth man diving into the crowd, and the inside stuff intro where he's trying to save the ball from out of bounds. He takes the ball, quickly throws it to the side. That's a classic shot right there. He was one of the reasons Michael Jordan got me into basketball. The 90s Knicks did. He was the other one that got me really into basketball. You just loved watching the guy. And
you talk about moments that always, Shaq ripping down the goal in New Jersey.
Oh my goodness. Yes, he did it in New Jersey. He did it in New Jersey, and then he did it in Phoenix too. So he did it a couple of times.
Love the old NBA memories with our man Justin. Is that Otis Thorpe jersey?
Oh my God, Otis Thorpe! I just grew more hair on my head from you saying that. No, it's Hakeem the Dream.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been cool if it was Sleepy Floyd.
Or Vernon Maxwell.
Yeah.
Sleepy Floyd had what he scored. He had the playoff record for points in a quarter for a while, 25, 6.
Look at Ray.
Yeah. Sleepy Floyd.
I think LeBron didn't LeBron beat that one game against the Pistons when he was like his second year? I always say the one moment in NBA, because living in St. Louis, we didn't have an NBA team, and nobody, people follow it, but it's nothing huge.
You had the Hawks back when you were a kid.
Well, no, not when I was a kid. My dad was a kid.
Bob Pettit was your favorite player.
Sleepy Floyd was against the Lakers, and I was wrong. It was 29 points in the fourth quarter.
There you go.
He scored 51 in the game.
I remember being in Denver, Colorado with a friend at a bar when LeBron was playing the Pistons. I think this was his second year. Like, the legend of LeBron had not happened yet and everything. And the Cavs were like a 7 seed maybe, and the Pistons a 2. And his fourth quarter against the Pistons that game was just like out of this world. I remember the whole bar. I'd never seen a bar stop what they're doing and watch a basketball game at like 8 o'clock at night, like on a Thursday or whatever the day was. It was really mind-blowing as somebody who'd never seen anybody really pay attention to basketball. The whole bar, like, just it was because he kept it's not like Pistons Cavs. He kept making shots and people are looking at the scoreboard. He's coming back, and it was the dawning of the era, I think, for me, Justin, of LeBron.
We all forget, guys, that LeBron James made it to the finals first few years in his career. He made it, as a Cavalier against the Spurs and just got slaughtered by the Spurs. Yeah. But he was there the first 3-4 years of his career.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. And he's still playing.
Yep.
More and more and more. Is he top 20 in fantasy or not?
LeBron? Yeah. He's right there, I'd say. He's there. I mean, look, when the guys, and the frustrating part about LeBron right now is just that he's questionable every single night. Yeah. And most of the time he does play, but then you start preparing your slate around it and everything, and then it goes kaput because he's out that game.
Justin, great visit, man. Love going along with you. Always good to talk some hoops. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
You bet. Justin Fitzerman hanging out with us, talking some NBA, and there was so much going on. So hopefully we gave you more for the same price, which the price is free. Kind of how it works. But we really earned our money today, Ray, with all the anybody else signed? Did Derrick Henry find a home in the last hour?
Let's take I was looking at the baseball news. Let's take a look. Maybe we'll get some big news here. No. Nyheim Hines has agreed to go to the Browns.
I'm surprised he's still playing. Nyheim Hines. Huh?
Yeah, he missed all of last year, I think, right? Basically. Yeah. We had some rumors of this occurring, and it did come to fruition this morning. Ian Rappaport is reporting that the Falcons, continuing to give weapons to Kirk Cousins, have agreed to terms with Darnell Mooney, who got the 3-year, $39 million that Gabe Davis got. Okay. Shaq Barrett has agreed to go to the Miami Dolphins after being a stalwart for the Buccaneers for years on a 1-year deal there. So those are kind of the big moves there, Kyle. I guess Mooney, $339 to the Falcons.
Man, it's good to know that mediocre receivers, Ray, are pulling in 3 years and almost $40 million.
I mean,
wow.
There were rumors that he was going to go to the Chiefs, right, to replace Marquez Valdez-Scantling as the field stretcher. He'll go to Atlanta to fill the similar role.
Crazy times. Money to be spent. They're a very popular sport, if you didn't know. They have a lot of money. Tomorrow, I will not be here, and I guess I should note I'll be pulling away for a bit. Some other obligations that are taking me away. But Ray will be here. Ray will be here, no doubt. And I think from time to time while I'm gone, Ray will be maybe bringing in some other fantasy guru talents. I'm sure Justin will be stopping by still. But Ray, it's hopefully, planning to be back. So I want to be back at some point. So don't find anybody too good to take my spot for a while, okay?
Yeah, I don't think I could even if I tried, Kyle. So
yeah, there are a lot of young hot shots in the business that would.
There are, but this is. I mean, I don't know, what has it been? 14 years this point.
Well, this is not goodbye, Ray.
I know, but I'm just saying it's been 14 years of basically me talking to you 5 days a week.
Yeah,
and so that's going to change a little bit moving forward here. So I just have to savor the moments when you are able to jump in and help out both on Sirius and here at fantasyguru.com. And we'll look forward to those opportunities.
Yeah. And nothing sad or anything like that. It's all good. So nothing to be concerned with, but I'll be just pulling away from the day-to-day stuff for a while. So we'll get all that taken care of, and hopefully I'll be able to jump back on board. Been fun each and every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. I love hanging out with Ray, despite the fact that I give him all sorts of SHIT. Unlimited ILs. I'll never understand. That was the breaking point, Ray. Whenever you
So,
said that, I'm like, I'm out.
After everything, all these years, unlimited IL, I'm out.
I put it with a lot of crap, but now it's finished. Just adios. Okay, but tomorrow, Ray, we'll be back. Big thank you to everybody for joining us. More on relievers tomorrow, team previews. Maybe we'll finally get some news on Garrett Cole. Derrick Henry hopefully going to have a home. So let's all hope that happens going into tomorrow. But 11 a.m. Eastern with more. A Fantasy Sports Daily powered by fantasyguru.com.